What's up, Facebook? We're here, back at it again. We got Richard Speck with us in the house, as always, every Thursday. You know, Rick keeps it live for us, keeps all of us on point, keeps us up to date with what's happening. And so we really appreciate, if you could, in the comments, please give a shout out to Rick on there. Let him know how much we appreciate Rick and everything he does for us here. So Rick is my buddy. It's my guy. If I don't keep him on his toes, I don't know who will. But we do have one of our favorite ladies, one of our sisters, sister of the number, Asia Johnson, joining us this morning. And she's going to be talking about a particular group that she's with and what role she plays in the whole criminal justice reform. Excuse me, I almost dropped my drink off right there. So she's going to talk and share with us a bit about, and we'll be able to ask some questions about the role that she plays in the whole criminal justice reform fight that we all partner together, but we all have our lanes, but we're one tribe attempting to pull off the one goal.
Change the world.
Change the world and make history. You know what I mean? And she is a history maker. So Asia, I'm going to stop because I can talk for an hour about nothing, but I'm going to stop. Take a minute. Tell us a little bit about you. Tell us what you do a little bit, and then we'll toss it over to Rick, okay?
All right. So my name is Asia. I am formerly incarcerated. I spent 7.5 years in Michigan's only prison for women. I came home in October of 2018, where, you know, I came home to a world that had changed, that was very different. But as far as criminal justice work was concerned, people were doing the work. And prior to going to prison, I was a college student, never thought about the people who were behind those gates, and you know, that was a lot of just me being young and naive and ignorant of the issues that were facing so many people in our community.
Yeah.
And so shortly after I came home, I became employed by an organization called the Bail Project, which is a national nonprofit. We operate in over 22 sites. We believe that freedom should be free. We post bail for people who can't afford to post it for themselves. And it doesn't there. We don't just post bail. We support our clients after they're released too.
I dig it. I love it. And we got some interesting questions for you in a minute. Rick, introduce yourself and then let's get right into it.
All right. Good morning. How you doing? Rick Speck, Community Engagement Specialist with Safe and Just Michigan. We're a nonpartisan group out of Lansing that is continuously working towards criminal justice reform in the shape of policy, right? With the clean slate package, with all these bills that are dropping right now with the governor's pretrial task force. So we look to support that, educate the public on that, why these policies are either good or not good. Like I said, formerly incarcerated myself, served multiple prison terms that spanned 18.5 years of my very young life. You know, happy to be here, happy to see Asia. I love the work you do. You know, I did a lot of bail work when I was with the ACLU of Michigan on the Smart Justice campaign. So I know how important your work is, not just from my previous experience, but also from working with folks coming home and still having challenges with the system. So what do you think in your work so far, what do you think in the jail? What's the percentage of folks that are probably in there because they can't afford bail, because they need you, the Bail Project, to come help them? What do you think like that? I mean, what that number looks like?
That percentage is very high of people who are currently incarcerated in our jails pre-trial, some held on high amounts of bond, some held without bond. But the thing is that we have a presumption of innocence in this country. So people are being held in our jails that haven't been convicted of anything. They are simply there because they have been accused of something. And that, I think, is what one of the conceptions about pretrial incarceration is that people are in jail because they've already been convicted, because they've already been found guilty. And that is not the case whatsoever.
Yeah. Okay, so let's, Bail Project, when you guys go down and bail people out, Are there certain crimes that you bail out, or is it just anybody? Are we going out and bonding out violent criminals that could be a threat to the community? What boundaries or parameters when bonding people out?
So I think that another misconception is that the discretion of the bond amount. So the judge sets the bond. The judge sets the bond, which means that this person is not a threat to society. And is the unfairness of this pretrial system is that somebody in Grosse Pointe, Michigan, I hope everyone knows where that is, who's accused of, let's say, an unarmed robbery. So we have John in Grosse Pointe, who's accused of an unarmed robbery, being held on a $5,000 bond. And then we have David in Detroit, accused of the same thing, held on a $5,000 bond. Why is it that John has the resources to go home because his family or himself has $5,000 to pay to get out, while David, who comes from an impoverished community, who doesn't have the resources, who doesn't have the family support to pay that bond? So the rich walk free while the poor stay in jail. And as far as charges go, we are charge agnostic. However, we go on a case-by-case basis. We work very closely with social workers, public defenders. We gather as much information about a case as we can before we make a decision on whether or not we can post bail for someone.
Okay. We're going public defenders, officers, social workers. So is this something where you all set up kind of like, let's say, a reentry plan? Say, okay, if I'm coming down here and I'm going to work with you, are you getting connected with Luck Inc. and Rick and Mario and them in Detroit? That's going to help with work. It's going to help with therapy or whatever they need in order to become healthy and restored. And so it's not, we're just going to go down here, bond you out, see ya. We're just getting everyone
Hope you go to court.
Exactly. So what the Bail Project believes in is community release with support. So not only do we pay their bail, but say we do a needs assessment before we even make the decision of whether or not to move forward. So we identify their needs. Maybe they have housing instability. Maybe they have a mental health condition that needs addressing. They might have an addiction that they need to address. We connect them with the resources in the community that can help them get back on the path to success. We also, as far as Rick, you brought up the court, hope you go to court. We give court reminders. We give Lyft rides to and from court, to and from work, to and from doctor's appointments, wherever they need to go. We know that Detroit has a very poor transportation system. And so we have a contract with Lyft Concierge where we are able to give our clients transportation assistance.
Oh, that's awesome. You know, you made an interesting point in your scenario with the Grosse Pointer and the Detroiter, right? And when I was doing a lot of the work behind bail, I guess what and I still struggle with it is, how does somebody's ability to pay a certain amount of money make us any safer as a community, right? Because as you said, same crime, same bond, resources versus no resources or limited resources, and we should feel better because one person has money. I mean, to me, money isn't going to ensure our safety as a community, and I don't know if the public understands that oftentimes in these poorer communities, folks are going to have to make a determination: should I pay the rent this month, or should I get my loved one out of jail? Should I get the father of my children out of jail, or do I pay the rent so that we can live here and take his calls? Like, what you know what I mean?
And it's definitely about the human cost of incarceration. Just one night in jail, someone could lose their job. They can lose their home. They can lose custody of their children. And people are getting arrested for all types of things, from driving on suspended license all the way up to something, you know, more serious. But what we are trying to fight is that human cost of incarceration. I know firsthand what it's like to sit in the jail that's dark, dirty, overcrowded. You put COVID-19 on top of all of that, and you have a disaster on your hands. Yeah. And so we are really in a position where we can really make and the system is, it disproportionately affects people of color, But also we find that people who are bailed out of jail have a higher rate of dismissal of their charges. They usually don't plead guilty because when you're sitting in jail and a prosecutor or your attorney comes to you and it says, you can leave if you just plead to these charges. You want to go home.
Just as misdemeanor.
Yes.
Even if you didn't do it.
Exactly.
You're ready to go home. I want to get out of here. It's a what? I can go today. I'm good. I'm guilty. Let's go. I'm ready. It's just a misdemeanor.
I got to sign that, right?
Right. But we don't understand the long-term implications of what that misdemeanor can do to somebody, right? Because we just look at it like it's a misdemeanor.
Okay. So would you say this is fair? Is this what you would propose? Is either you stay in jail or you go home? Like take bail out of the picture. If someone's a threat to the community, right? They've killed someone, or we've determined, whoever makes the determination that this person is not safe to have them out in our neighborhoods right now. We need them locked up. Do they just go on, and then those who aren't a threat, we let them out until court?
So it's always very tricky with pretrial incarceration. But if someone is a threat to the community, we definitely don't move forward with posting their bail. If they have proven themselves a threat to themselves or the community, we will say, this is not a safe solution for anybody in the situation, and we won't move forward with posting their bail. Having worked with many public defenders, family members, we reach out to family members and friends too to make sure that client or potential client has support when they are released.
Yeah. So
we talk to as many parties involved as we possibly can to get a very fair picture of what is happening.
Okay.
And also the judge sets the bond. So if the judge is like, you know what, if you have $5,000, you can go home. The judge doesn't think that this person is a threat to society whatsoever. Because $5,000 to the average person. So what we found is that most Americans don't have an extra $400 for an unplanned expense.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So imagine having what'd you say?
For clarification, 5,000, 10%. So it's really 500 for people who are on here that don't know how the bond system works.
If the 10% is given by the judge, yeah.
It's either going to be, but either that or cash or surety, right?
Well, so it'd be $5,000 cash. If you give him the 10%, it's 500. But if he does it cash and you got to go to a bail bondsman and the bail project isn't, you're not aware of them. What people don't understand is that money that they give to that bail bondsman, they never see that again.
Exactly.
That's gone.
All right.
Those resources, like whatever was put up, $500, that $500 goes to that bail bondsman for securing that other $4,500. That's their fee. And so then the other problem, though, honestly, in my estimation, we face with bail is how many times, Asia, does it happen where, at least in the past, I'm not sure now, they would want to keep the bail for court fines for this, for that. And you got a family member that posted your bail with the impression that when you resolve this case, I'm going to get my money back. So Uncle Rick is going to loan nephew Nate $500 to get out. I got that for you, right? And then you go to court, Nate, and at the end of the assessment, they're like, you owe $652. We'll take the $500 bail. You owe $152 to the court. And Uncle Rick's like, wait a minute. That's my money. That's coming back to me.
Yeah.
Happens all the time. So the bail project has a soft threshold of $5,000. We cannot pay a bond over $5,000 unless, for example, I posted bond for a young man. It was his first time in trouble. He had a $5,000 cash bond, but he also had a $500 traffic ticket out of another jurisdiction. So I have to take the extra steps and go to my supervisor to see if we can pay the extra $500. But on a normal basis, we can only go up to that $5,000 ceiling. Anything above that, we can't move forward with.
Okay.
That's still a good number. I mean, so if somebody's bond was 50,000, 10%, you could post the $5,000 to get that person out?
We could post the $5,000, yes.
Wow. That's awesome. That's great. I mean, because I mean, that that is a big number, right? I mean, 50
Yeah.
grand, 10%, that's a big number. So that's awesome.
And historically, bond was supposed to work as a reason for people to go back to court. You have skin in the game. So if you put this money up, you're going back to court. It also was supposed to be affordable.
Ability to pay.
Exactly. And we are finding that it is not affordable, nor does money necessarily mean that somebody's going to go back to court. It's community support that makes people go back to court.
I was going to say, Rick didn't, Asia. So the case in point right there, Asia.
I was gone.
Yeah.
I'm gone.
Just ain't going to do it, are they?
See you when I see you. I'd like to think I'd make a different decision today, but that was my own self.
So, okay, another question. Is the bail project, is this only for those who live in Wayne County, or is this for all of state of Michigan? Case, let's say we had someone here in Muskegon, they had a 5,000, 10% bond. Could the bail project come over here and bond them out?
Absolutely, we could. And I am sad that we don't get any referrals from your side of the state. You all have a jail full of people who have bonds that we can pay, and nobody is calling me. I did bail someone out of Grand Rapids once. Yeah. And I made that drive 2 days in a row. But yes, we work predominantly in Wayne and in Washtenaw, but we will take referrals from anywhere as long as, I wouldn't mind driving to the UP, but it's not something that I'm like, yay, let's do it. But, I'm definitely willing because I know the cost of staying in jail.
Right. We know pretrial incarceration, it ruins lives. It ruins families, which ultimately hurts communities, right? And so I think what you guys are doing through this is, everybody deserves their day in court, but at the same, they also deserve to continue to live their best life leading up to that moment, right? And like you said, there's a reason why folks don't go to jail when they're on bond. There's all these different factors and different things that play into it. But at the end of the day, like you said, these are innocent folks. These are people that have not been found guilty of anything, right? They're allowed their day in court. But in the meantime, shouldn't they be able to take care of their family, take care of themselves? Because like you said, the consequences are losing a house, losing a job, losing your child. And the sad part is we've seen people that are wrongfully arrested, wrongfully prosecuted, and as a community, to continue to lock people up over driving tickets, all these things, like we are not any safer, especially like here in Michigan when you can lose your license for a non-driving related incident.
Exactly.
We're pushing to change that with what's going on with some legislation that's coming down behind the pretrial task force. But how many folks are in there because they can't pay traffic tickets for a few $100, and now we're in jail. And what's it cost us? $150 a day as taxpayers to house that person. So we're paying $150 a day. They got a $500 bond. Hey, day 4 we ate up that $500. Now it's all taxpayer money.
Yep.
And if somebody's there for months to get this adjudicated, I think we can use that money a whole lot better in our communities than just holding somebody, especially now, like you said, amongst this COVID, amongst the complications, the jails, they've never been clean and tidy since, I was young. You got to imagine, first time I went to jail was like 87 or something.
I was like 1 year old in 87.
I know.
What do you mean, You I'll be 50 this year, and I'm blessed to have made it this far because.
Oh my God, Rick! I can't believe that. You look so good.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All unsolicited compliments are accepted here. I appreciate it. When you get 50, you take them. Like, okay, that's cool.
And so the bail project, we work on a national revolving bail fund. So that means that every dollar that is donated to the bail project goes towards somebody's bail. And when that client's case comes to a close, we get that money back and we're able to continue bailing people out. So whatever money we get, that money never stops working. Never stops working. We continue to bail people out because people's cases come to a close and we are refunded that money.
Wow. Okay.
That's awesome, though. That is so cool.
This continues to recycle. So like a self-sustainable kind
model,
in a sense, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
That's good. So you guys have 22 sites. How many states are you guys in?
Oh, how many states? So we're in a lot of states. Some states have so Illinois, for example, we have Chicago, and then we have another smaller community that's okay. Let's not use Illinois. Let's use Indiana. We have Indianapolis, and then we have Indiana Lakeview area. So that counts as 2 different sites. And then in St. Louis, we have 2 sites. And then we're in California, Washington State, Arizona, Oklahoma, Georgia. We're if you go to bailproject.org, there's a map that will show you every single city that we're in. And if you have a loved one that's incarcerated in or around that area, you just fill out a little form on Bail Project and you will get a call within 24 hours, letting you know how we can move forward.
Oh, that's great. 24-hour turnaround time. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Cool. That is so good. It's interesting that, from the time that they set bail as a component within the system years ago, that now we're just now having these conversations here in the last few years about bail and how my thought is, how come it never came up before? You know what I mean? The people before us.
It's judges are so some judges have been on the bench for so long. Bail is just second nature to them. They haven't even changed the mindset about a world in which cash bail doesn't exist. And that's why it's so important to vote in your local elections for prosecutors. That's where the change with cash bail may in fact start here in Michigan, is with the prosecutorial races that are happening in Wayne County, Oakland County, Washtenaw County,
Macomb County.
And do your research.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. I think that a lot of people are under this misunderstanding that, the judge has the most juice in the courtroom. And honestly, I think that person that has the most juice is the prosecutor, because they're the one that makes the bail recommendation. And the sad part is the ability to pay isn't taken into consideration, right? And so, like you said, you got these 2 folks, $5,000 apiece, but did anyone look into their background? Did anyone look into what their financial status is, right? What's the ability for the Detroiter to pay or the gross point? Maybe, neither one has ability, but we didn't look, right? So it's they have this, this crime warrants this bond for no matter who, no matter what, we're just going to rubber stamp it. And I think the saddest part is, these are professionals, the prosecutors, the judges, they make a good living. And I think they're kind of out of touch with the average person that they're actually dealing with and what the ability to pay is, because I think that they probably would assume $100 bail, anyone can pay $100, right?
Right.
I'm a judge. Hey, I make 100 and some thousand a year. What's $100? I mean, that's dinner, right?
Exactly.
And so they don't give it a second thought, but $100 for somebody else,
huge,
right? People don't just have that disposable income. And so you're right. The prosecutor has the most juice. They're the one that's putting it up for the bail amount, and 9 times out of 10, I think judges are going to go with that. But one thing you mentioned with the COVID, I was going to ask, have you seen any change in the court's behavior since COVID in relation to setting bails? Have they tried to mitigate it at all? In your experience?
I posted a bond for a woman who had a $10 bond. It was reduced after COVID. She didn't have the $10 in her account, nor did she have family support, but she had her own, she lived alone. She was collecting Social Security, but she didn't have that $10. And so the court thought they were doing a great thing by reducing it to $10, but this woman didn't have $10. And so, the jails, we have seen an effort to decarcerate during COVID, but that effort is not going far enough at all.
Minimal?
Yes.
Did you say minimal?
Minimal.
Do you think, are some counties doing it better? I mean, I remember at one point, Macomb County had reported they had like 313 people in their jail. And it held like 900, so to 1,200 on average.
I know that Washtenaw County is doing it well, for sure. Okay. I'm not sure about Macomb, but that is a great number if they have reduced less than 50% of what they usually operate at. Wayne County is trying. They're trying to do it.
Oh, they're trying. All right.
There's so many people, they're still held on bond that really should be home, working, living their lives, continuing to go to school, taking care of their families, and yet they're sitting in jail. So judges are still setting bonds. Yes, it's still happening.
Okay.
Wow. That is...
Nate, anything you want to close us out with? I think we're probably pretty close to our time.
No, I just appreciate the work you're doing. I think it's great. It's obviously in line with second chances, and reentry is a part of the Bail Project, and with the view. And I like the fact that you guys come up with a workable service. You know what I mean? Like doing homework to make sure this person is a good fit. Can this individual actually steward this opportunity that they're going to get, right? And is the focus on getting from point A to point B with resources along the way to help get there? So I champion and I appreciate the work you do, and you and your whole team. I think you guys are a huge blessing to all of us, especially within the reform world. Things you guys are championing, it's great. So we really do.
We absolutely believe in second chances and people's ability to change. We believe in the presumption of innocence. We believe that people should not be defined by their worst act.
Yeah.
And like the stigma of being incarcerated, even if it's just for a couple of days, weighs heavy on you. And that misdemeanor can mess up your employment opportunities for the rest of your life. And so we really are trying to cut down on that human cost of incarceration.
Yeah. So good. Good stuff. Well, we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
The Bail Project. We appreciate her. We love her. She's a sister of the number. So
and she's in the parking lot of the jail. Like, folks need to know, like, she's in her vehicle because she just was bailing somebody out. Yeah. Ran out to do the CJ Cafe and then run back in and probably bail. You know what I mean? Like, people need to know she's in her car out there on these streets putting in work.
And she's the real deal too. So we appreciate it. Thanks so much, Asia, for joining us. And
thank you, guys. Two of my favorite guys in the whole world. Thank you for having me on here. The work you do is important. And we need to connect on reentry with Luck Inc. and how I can connect my clients to employment opportunities. So let's talk
for sure.
in the coming days.
For sure.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Facebook, thanks for joining us, hanging out with us today and coming on. We really appreciate you guys. We'll be back next week, Thursday, with our next lineup. So see you guys. Peace. Love you.
Peace.